It's not uncommon to see a video go viral when it has something to do with someone being kind to another person. These types of videos leave us feeling warm-hearted and gives us hope for humanity. You'll see people share these videos with comments along the lines of, "We need more of this in the world," or "It's great to see people helping each other. This inspires me." There's a good reason for this kind of reaction and attention. Sometimes it can seem as if the only kind of news that is being shared is how we are divided as a people, or how much pain and heartache there is in the world. When it feels that the bad news or difficult truths are all we are inundated with, any story, no matter how small or grand, that shows that humanity still cares for each other, has us clinging to it as though it was water quenching the dry earth. I don't wish for us to not enjoy these types of stories or videos, but rather make them more common and less sensational. What would it take for us to make these stories and videos of people being kind to one another more common? Well, the Apostle Paul gives us some helpful hints. In the various communities we belong to, family, friends, neighbors, school, work, church, and in general humanity, it can be hard to find ways to be there for one another. We live in such a fast-paced society that sometimes we miss the ways we can simply be there because we've already moved on to the next thing we are doing. Other times it can seem that there are just too many differences or barriers that keep us from being able to be kind and find commonality with folks to be able to be there for them. And others, we feel like the world owes us for the tough times we have been through. And until we've gotten ours, we can't see how we can be there for others. Granted, these are oversimplifications of how things work, but they capture some of the reasons we struggle to be there for one another, and why when we see these videos of kind acts, we receive them as though they are rare treasures and beacons of hope. Paul's context was quite different than ours today, but he knew the complexity of being in relationship with each other and speaks to how one can face those difficulties and live from God's love. Paul acknowledges that being in relationship with others can be so difficult that it actually gets to a point of leaving you angry. Paul does something really significant here. Paul doesn't anger, but rather gives space for one to feel them. And yet he heeds a warning, not to be angry to the point that you sin. Basically, Paul is saying, don't allow anger to become an obsession or a path to wanting revenge. If there is injustice, be angry. If there is wrongdoing or harm, be angry. Just don't allow that anger to grow to consume all you think about, or to develop to a place that you can cause harm to self, others, or your relationship with God. So in times when it feels like we're just supposed to be nice, good church folks, or to ignore the anger we feel, remember the words of Paul, be angry. But don't let the sun go down on your anger. Not necessarily the literal sun, but rather process your anger and figure out why you feel angry. Know yourself. Continue to learn yourself in each new season of life so you are able to understand what angers you. If you know the source of your anger, you are able to process it and begin to release its hold on you so that you do not sin from it. In order to not sin from your anger, Paul gives insights to how we can guide ourselves, practicing kindness, tenderheartedness, and forgiveness. As Angela noted, maybe these are our superpowers. These seem simple enough, yet can be some of the most challenging acts we practice. You see, our society has taught us that being right is what this journey is often about. It's even Darwinian in nature. Survival of the fittest can sometimes seem as survival of the most right. Being right can lead us to forget the importance of tenderheartedness. A desire to be right can create in us a need to see others as wrong. And in doing so, we can't see or hear where they are coming from. And thus, we are kept from being moved to compassion and love, as we could be if we were grounded in a tender-hearted nature. It's difficult to practice when we realize sacrificing being right means being open to other outcomes. Sometimes those other outcomes will be admitting we are wrong, but more often than not, it will mean we realize that being right isn't as important as seeing the person we are speaking to or interacting with as beloved children of God. And that it doesn't matter, actually, if either of you are right, or maybe even to admit that there are more than one expression of rightness. When we allow ourselves to be tender-hearted, we allow ourselves to be honest listeners, listening for ways to be moved to compassion and love for the person or persons we wish to prove wrong or wish at times to win over to our side of thinking or being. When the end result is not to be right, it can feel like, what's the point? Yet the point is that we need to see each other as beloved children of God. And if all we ever seek is to be right, then we have made our beliefs and our ideologies idols. If we worship the God of love and are to be imitators of such a God, as Paul teaches, then nothing can come before our desire to be moved by love. That means when we are angry, we release ourselves from the powers of seeking revenge or wishing great harm, and free ourselves to a place of separation from that source of said anger. When admitting we are wrong feels more threatening than acknowledging you didn't have enough information to make an informed response, or that what you had once thought to be right no longer holds truth and you were wrong, when that is more threatening, we risk the chance of being honest with ourselves and with others. If we can never be wrong and are always saying others are lying or misinformed, or that what we said was taken out of context, or that people are out to get us, we never open ourselves to the chance of practicing forgiveness. Being wrong means you have grown in some capacity. You have been able to see how an action caused someone pain, how a belief lent itself to injustice, how an ideology led to believing to other people being seen as others, how a choice caused you harm, or very simply, you misspoke, had misinformation, or mistook something as a healthy option when it wasn't. When you know you have been wrong, you can then seek forgiveness as needed. If we only believe we are meant to be right, then forgiveness can lead us to feel like we are weak when we need to ask others for it. If we only believe we are ever to be right, then we believe we are the only ones who can ever offer forgiveness to others. And that can lead us to seeing forgiveness as a high and mighty act that only we are capable of giving, and others will always need to ask for it. You see, forgiveness is never meant to induce shame or elicit pompousness. Forgiveness is a source of grace and acceptance. Forgiveness is rooted in the love of God. If forgiveness is anything other than a stabilizer in seeing self and others as beloved children of God, we have missed out on its greatest offering. To be tender-hearted and one who practices forgiveness, there will be a need for us to choose kindness. Kindness does not mean we play nice or engage only at surface level with others. To be kind to one another means seeing their humanity as more important than your desire or need to be right. It also means that when the chance presents itself, we choose to love our neighbors as ourselves. To choose kindness is to choose the other person's well-being before what might make our day a little easier. And that can be as simple as moving about our day without taking notice of who crosses our path. When Paul tells the Ephesians to practice kindness, he is reminding them that community needs people to take note of each other, know each other, and see what is impacting one another, to be able to meet each other's needs so no one goes wanting, to see one another beyond our external appearances or abilities, and to take time to learn the hearts and souls of those in their lives. To be kind is to take that moment of pause to truly see those in your life and choose to act from love when you interact with them. We strive to teach our children to be kind because we know it's important. It's a lesson we can lose into our adulthood, though, and as such, we need to lean into Paul's words once again. The reason videos of folks being kind go viral is because it's not always easy to choose kindness. In our society here in the States, we currently live in a place that teaches us as long as we speak the longest or the loudest, we win arguments or disagreements. If we merely call those who believe or think differently than us as liars or at worst evil, then we don't have to justify our own beliefs in logic or in faith. If we dismiss those who cross our path in need as folks who simply have just not worked hard enough, we don't need to take the time to listen to their stories as to how they ended up in the situation that they did. Our news cycles run on scandal, crime, and harm. At best, there will be at least a 10-minute segment at the very end of local news with a feel-good story. So when we see a younger kid helping an elderly neighbor down the stairs, a fellow customer helping out a parent with a screaming kiddo get checked out and into the car a little faster and easier, or people of opposing viewpoints coming together to care for their community, we share it. And we share it in part because for a brief moment, we are part of that kindness. Yet Paul reminds us that we are called to be part of that kindness on a regular basis. Our current society may not be saturated with folks choosing kind, but let's take a moment to imagine what our world would look like if it were. A society where we choose kind would mean the boss who can provide a living wage to their employees does so at the expense of taking their annual bonuses. When a heated topic arises with family or friends, everyone takes a deep breath, hears everyone out, chooses their words intentionally to express what they believe to be true without vilifying or objectifying those who do not agree. The doctor or nurse takes time to listen to the patient before reading their chart so that the person's personal account and their chart can inform treatment and care, and that patient can feel seen and heard. A parent or grandparent is able to listen to their child or grandchild without dismissing their concerns as adolescent drama, but hears their pains as the true struggles they are, without comparing them to their own adult struggles. A child is able to help around the house without being asked because they wish to show their parents that the ways they are provided for are appreciated. Washing clothes or dishes, cleaning their room, taking trash out, mowing the lawn, walking the dog, all without being asked, because they know it will be a surprise of gratitude to their parents. When someone hasn't been at work, school, or church within the past week or so, you send them a note saying you missed seeing them and hope that they are well. At the grocery store or out shopping, you take notice of the other customers, and if one of them is unable to reach something on a high or low shelf, unsure where something is located, or if they have little ones and can't juggle getting their items on the counter or checkout belt, you lend a hand. When you hear something you disagree with, you choose not to shut down, but learn your voice so that you can speak up and begin to engage with those who disagree with you, because shutting down can leave more assumptions on the table. During a meal, take note of the name of your waitstaff, thanking them by name or commending them for their service by name. And as my husband's church says, they will know we are Christians by our tips. So tip well. In a conversation with someone who says something offensive, rather than calling them out to make them feel foolish or to ostracize them, call them into the conversation further by saying something like, I hear what you're saying. I'm wondering if you heard recent stats that reveal this. Had you ever considered it that way? Because calling people in allows for the conversation to continue and leaves both of you sitting with the chance to learn and grow from one another. Being kind is at the very basis of being the living, breathing church in the world. It is not flippant, but it is powerful and gospel-informed. Choosing kind doesn't mean we don't engage with the injustice of this world or live in tension with others, but it means when we do so without sinning against one another and with the chance to collectively move in God's love. So don't wait for the next viral video of kindness to come across your feed. Every day, we have the chance to bring a bit of heaven here on earth when we choose kind. Just as the quote on your order of worship says, if you have the chance to choose between being right and being kind, choose kind. The world can be transformed by authentic kindness, tenderheartedness, and forgiveness. They may be simple lessons from the Apostle Paul to the Ephesians, but they apply to us here today. Kindness is not easy. If it were, this world would be different. So do the hard work and choose kind, for the world needs you, and God's love needs you to choose kind. Amen.